Hey guys, my name is Timio, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for the day comes from Seth, and it is, what do you think about a one-speed attacking operator in Rainbow Six Siege with metal boots who can walk over barbed wire and welcome mats? Well, I will say that this probably wouldn't be all that useful as a one-speed operator. If you got 3 armor, you're not moving all that quickly on offense, and while yes, the barbed wire would slow you down even further as a 3-armored operator, it's not like you're trying to rush on to the objective as quickly as possible to take advantage of your speed. You're all about soaking up damage and hopefully winning a firefight because of that. What I could see this being really powerful as is as a 3-speed operator who can just rush onto the objective as quickly as possible. The reason why barbed wire is so useful right now is because it's a tool to stop the offensive team from just bum rushing the objective or slowing down their progress. And so the idea of having a new operator who just completely nullifies the barbed wire, they can just charge on in and they don't have to worry about it at all, that could be very powerful. If you're on defense and you're expecting your barbed wire to be that early warning sign, you're expecting them to slow them down, you don't hear a grenade go off, so you know that they haven't destroyed it, but there, all of a sudden, there is this 3-speed operator who's right in front of you, that could catch you by surprise, and they could get an easy kill against you. Now, the real question is, though, would this operator actually be effective? On paper, it sounds okay, you know, in some situations and on some maps, especially if the defensive team is going crazy with barbed wire. If you're playing on hostage, why not? Get in, get out. You're not hindered by it whatsoever. You don't have to worry about explosive devices taking down the hostage. You can kind of grab the hostage and get on out. But in reality, would people play as this guy on a regular basis, and would it actually change the meta? It's kind of hard to say. I know some people really don't think that barbed wire is even effective. I know a couple of friends who kind of joke and say, oh, I'm not going to use barbed wire, I'm going to use something else, because it just slows down the enemy. Like, how useful could that actually be? And so I'd like to know what you guys think about this concept. One thing I'm not really too keen on is that he would be a very selfish operator who doesn't provide any team synergy whatsoever. The reason why people like to play as Ashe is because she can rush on in, she's very fast, but her gadget actually provides some team benefit. She can use it to open up barricades, she can use it to blow open walls, who your teammates can also pass on through. She can use it against barbed wire, but then it's not just her that can pass by, it's also everyone on her team doesn't have to deal with that barbed wire at all. And so let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this is even useful? Do you think that this guy would be very underwhelming? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. The next question is, what do you think about a buff to Thatcher where his EMP grenades, after exploding, leave a static zone equivalent to the original EMP grenade's explosive radius, where all electronic enemy gadgets will be jammed for 5 to 7 seconds, but not destroyed? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this would be a massive buff to Thatcher, and I'm assuming the reason why you're recommending this change is you don't want to deal with the bandit trick anymore, and I don't blame you. Bandit jungling is the bane of Thatcher's existence. Using all 3 of your EMP charges on one wall and still not being able to get through it is one of the most frustrating things that you can encounter in Rainbow Six Siege. And so to have this static zone, while I don't think is all that realistic, to then jam Bandit's batteries, which also isn't all that realistic, but bear with me. If that is the way that it works, that would be a huge buff to Thatcher, because then you could reliably get through these walls as long as your thermite isn't an idiot and will place his thermite charge promptly after you use your gadgets. The question we need to talk about, though, is this actually necessary? Now, I'm right there with you. I despise the bandit trick. I hate the fact that when you use 2 operators, their entire abilities are designed to get through a wall. One guy can just go through this mini game, he can just get lucky, or he can, be skillful at it. And I realize there is some skill involved here. He can use just one operator to completely nullify 2 operators who are entirely designed to get through that wall. I know people like it, I know that it is a feature, and even the developers have kind of talked about that this is something that they like in the game, they've talked about it in their live stream. It just doesn't sit well with me, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. And so as soon as they make a change like this, yeah, Thatcher gets a massive buff, but of course this is nerfing Mute and Bandit, which is going to have some repercussions. The most obvious one, of course, is that less people are going to play as these operators. I do not think that Mute or Bandit are overpowered. They're good, and while I know some people will say that the Bandit trick is a bit overpowered, overpowered, kind of like what we discussed before. Like they're not top tier. I mean, they're very, very strong, but you don't see Bandit every single round. You definitely don't see a Mute every single round because they're just not that influential. And so I think the discussion that needs to be had is, do you guys think that this is strictly necessary? One way that you can work around the Bandit trick is you could use other gadgets, like throw a grenade through the drone hole. You could put a fuse above the objective, like if you're playing on Consulate, have him in the piano room, nuke the garage. You can do it that way, but that is using 3 operators to deal with just 1 operator. So some people would say that that is a little bit too much as well. And so let me know what you guys think. Do you think that the Bandit trick is not something that we should have in Rainbow Six Siege? Do you think that is a very important part of Bandit and it's the only reason why people play as him? Let me know your thoughts down below. The next question comes from Samuel, and it is, I just saw the Battlefield 1 announcement for Premium Friends. Do you think this will help increase the longevity of the DLC? Yeah, absolutely. I gotta give credit where credit's due, because one of the biggest complaints that people have been making about Battlefield recently is their DLC policy. It's splitting up the community. When you have friends that don't have Premium or the upcoming DLC, not being able to play with them really stings, and so you're probably going to go back to the normal vanilla maps so that you can actually play with your friends. And because of this, less people are playing on the DLC, less people are playing on it, which means that less servers are going to run those DLC maps, and they slowly wither away and die. We're already sadly seeing this with the first DLC of Battlefield 1. It's really hard to get into an operation game mode because there just simply isn't enough people playing or purchasing that content. And so what's great about this Premium Friends edition is that if you yourself own Premium, you can invite 4 of your friends who only have access to the base game because they haven't bought the Premium content. You can then join one of the new DLC maps, and they're going to be able to tag along with you. The caveat to this, though, is that they're not going to have access to any of the new weapons or any of the new achievements or anything like that, and they're also not going to gain any experience while they are on those maps. As long as they're okay with that, they're going to be able to enjoy all of that new content. And so in my opinion, this is a great step in the right direction, which absolutely needed to be done. I know that there are going to be some cynical people out there that will just say, oh, this is DICE's way to try to save Battlefield 1. And that is a fair criticism. The player base has dropped significantly in this game. I just recently looked on the PC side of things. There were 30,000 people playing on PC, which is okay. But if we look on over to Battlefield 4, they have 15,000 people playing. Battlefield 4 has been out for 3.5 years. Battlefield 1 has only been out for 6 months, and there's only double the player count. Like, that's really sad. And so hopefully this will be one way to get people back and infused and involved in Battlefield 1 again, because they can enjoy this content with their friends. All in all, though, I'm just ecstatic that EA and DICE are finally making some changes to their DLC policy. I know that there are some people that are a bit annoyed by this change because they bought Premium, they put down $50 assuming this was the only way they'd have access to these maps, and if they knew this from the get-go, they may not have purchased the Premium service because they already had a friend who bought it and they would have rather just enjoyed the maps for free, and they don't really care about the weapons. I can absolutely see where they're coming from. My hope is, though, is that DICE realizes that this is a good thing for the game, maybe not perfect, and they try to improve upon it for the next Battlefield title. Maybe then we could get something like we have in Rainbow Six Siege, where the cosmetic items funds the development of the DLC, so we can have the maps free for everyone, and we're not in the kind of the sticky situation that we are in right now. The next question comes from Benjamin, and it is, if the number of operators keeps getting bigger, do you think we'll eventually have an option to ban operators in ranked? I think we talked about this in a past episode of Sunday Mailbox, but if I remember correctly, my original response was that we didn't need to have a ban system. Because we had a limited player count back then, even if we did have a year 2 or year 3 DLC, it just wasn't going to be enough operators to warrant a ban system. If I remember right, back then we only had Thermite, and so what if someone banned Thermite? Well, now everyone on offense, granted both teams would have to work around this, but basically that would suck because no one can get through reinforced walls. Like, that just didn't seem like anything that we would really need or want to have in Rainbow Six Siege. Now that Ubisoft has announced that they want to bring in 50 to 100 new operators, though, I could see eventually them bringing in a ban system to ensure that some operators don't become overused, or if they are overpowered, this is a way to ensure that they don't impact ranked games too heavily. I'm sure many people would have loved to have banned Glaz with the most recent updates, and while people have kind of adapted to it, I don't think people think he's as overpowered as he was when he first got that update. I still think a lot of people, if there was a ban system in place, might ban him because they don't want to deal with him on certain maps, like on Plane, for example. Like, that could actually be a key feature. And so for a couple of years now, do we need a ban system? Probably not. But if this game continues to grow and it gets to the point where we do have 50 to 100 operators to choose from, honestly, this could be a necessary thing that they add on in. It works in games like League of Legends and Dota, and if we do ever get to that point, I think that it will absolutely work in Rainbow Six Siege. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you like the idea of having an option to ban different operators? Do you think that's the worst thing ever? Let me know down below. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.